This episode is brought to you by Rad Scooter Deli on 6th Street. Craving something delicious in Paso Robles? Rad Scooter Deli on 6th Street has you covered. Enjoy tasty sandwiches, fresh salads, and smoothies like the Banana Nut Blast, my personal favorite. Kick back on the covered patio, sip on a cold beer and wine, and enjoy the easy parking. Order online for pickup or dine-in. And here's a treat. Use promo code PODCAST for $5 off your next order. That's podcast for $5 off your next order. Open daily from 6:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Rad Scooter Deli. Local flavor, fast and fresh. This episode is brought to you by the White Wave Wellness. Choose to live a healthy and fulfilling life. Wellness is more than being free from illness. It is a process of change and growth towards a mentally and physically healthy lifestyle. Reach out to Jennifer Hale to learn more about how this water can change your life. This episode is sponsored by Western Janitor Supply. They have cleaning supplies and equipment for any workplace. Call today at 805-238-2112. They provide an extensive line of chemicals, paper products, and floor equipment. Again, that's Western Janitor Supply, located in downtown Paso Robles. This episode is sponsored by Santos Bros Plumbing. Are you in need of a dependable and effective plumber you can trust? Look no further than Santos Bros Plumbing, your trusted local plumbers in Paso Robles, California. Call them now at 805-360-4679. That's Santos Bros Plumbing. We're here at the Paso Robles podcast, and today I have a very special guest from Cal Coast Beer Company.
That's right.
Rich. Rich. So I keep seeing you pop up on a lot of nonprofits. I keep seeing you pop up because you have your own podcast now. So I'm super excited for what you're doing. And I'll let you tell the viewers, listeners, a little bit about what you do, a little bit about your story. And that's as far as my normal questions go. And then I start going off the script.
All right. Sounds good. I'm here for it. I'm ready to roll. Where do you want me to start?
Start with where you what's your place of business, and why Paso, and then go from there.
Absolutely. Well, I am one of the founders and owners of California Coast Beer Company. We picked that name because every other cool name seemed to be taken, it's like, and then we knew we wanted to identify with like a region, and I grew up in Redding, California, way up north, and even did some abalone diving in Fort Bragg, and went to Mendocino a few times. And my business partner, he lives in Cayucas, and then some of our investors were surfers and live in Ventura. And so we all had one thing in common. We love the California coast. And as Air Fried Paso said out there, they got us. They said it's an unoriginal name, and they're absolutely right. It's nobody owns the word California, nobody owns the word coast, and nobody owns the word beer. And so the identifier in there was California Coast Beer Company, not brewing. And the only reason for that is we make beer, and there started to be a time where brewing was really popular as a name for people who were making coffee, people who were making teas, things like that. Yeah. So distinguish, just to let people know, the beer in the title became really popular, it's now really becoming popular. People use that name a lot just to distinguish people who make beer from people who make other things. So I'm one of many owners. We had a lot of people. It's a big project. And so Frank Panion, myself, and my wife and his wife were the majority owners, but we have some great people who invested in a dream. And here we are in Paso, and Paso Robles is just an unbelievable place. When I came through here and I visited, like many people, I just was, enamored by how many things you can do in such a small area, and the outdoors was really the focus. So that was cool for me. And we thought, this place is growing, and, let's put some roots down here.
Yeah. Was there any second city contender that you were thinking about?
Well, funny story. Every city was a contender that I lived in. Because for me, I grew up in Redding, and my best friend growing up, Craig Coons, he owns Sunrift Beer Company in Kalispell, Montana. And when we were kids, we both played football and grew up, and he played football at Arizona State, and he'll be on the podcast. But for us, but he made beer at Four Peaks Brewing Company in downtown Tempe. And if you've ever been there, they were ahead of their time. It was in the 90s. And he was making beer when I was studying to be in education. And I thought, there's no way this is a real job. There's absolutely no way you get to make beer and then produce this product and then go sit at the, at the bar there or sit in the pub and drink your product. And it was just an unbelievable thing. And so every time I would go there during the summer to make beer with him, I couldn't believe it. And what occurred was I just kept telling everyone I met, like, I have this friend, he's really good at what he does. We should start a brewery. And there weren't that many breweries. That was at 1998. No, that was probably 2000, right around there when he was starting to do that, 2001. And that was kind of ahead of the huge boom. And so every city I was in before that, I tried to do it. I just didn't run into the right people.
Yeah. So when you were trying to find people to invest with you for this idea, how did those conversations go? Like, was it, because from what I understand, I mean, I've seen an Undercover Billionaire show, whatever, like how they start from $1 or $100 and then they build from their Grant Cardone, types like that. And they do crowdfunding and like angel investing, stuff like that. So how did you go? It's like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to go network. Like, tell me how that happened, because I'm honestly just curious.
That part happens once you get a building, and we had the spot. You really, we created this really cool business plan, and we thought it was primo. We made it. It was to the nines. It looked good. It had pictures and research and all that stuff. And all the banks said, "No way. If you haven't been in business," and it's so. The irony is, if you haven't done a business yet, you can't even get a startup loan, which is strange because it's called a startup loan. Yeah. But so the banks were out. And so really you just start to look around for private investors. And I started with the people that I knew growing up. A lot of the people had already known Craig and the work that he could do. He had breweries already, so he wasn't able to invest, or he would have, and even though we have him as a part of the team, we brought him in. You just really have to go and sell your dream. It's like what you're doing. It's you go to the people and you just open yourself up. You be authentic, and they've seen it, but they had to invest in something that wasn't there. That's right. Kind of unique. Is sure, we had an old building, but we had nothing outside of that. And the person who's asking you has done a great job working in education before, but hasn't ever done this, and so you're taking a risk. You're asking someone, this is a different thing. This isn't a bank. This is people's private funds that they're sharing with you. Yeah. And they're expecting the money back, and you are going to do everything within your power to make sure that happens. And so it is a unique, and we're very grateful. That's why we treat all those people at the highest level. When we see them, and all of our team at Calcos knows all of those people, and we make sure to give them the credit that they deserve, because they're very humble people as well. They're like, oh, we didn't do anything. But the reality is none of that exists without the people who take a risk with you, and whether that's monetarily or that's just physically doing the work, we have a couple of people who did that as well. And everything is just as important. No one thing is above or below each other, and so we treat it that way.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps popping up is you're constantly partnering. Well, it feels like it's constant, partnering with nonprofits. It's constant. Was that always the idea you had when you built this?
No, I wouldn't say no. It seems like you think that you would have that idea originally, and you could see, but no, we had a passion in education. I would go and ask people for donations for like youth jerseys. I was in charge of athletics, a lot of athletic programs, or equipment or things like that. And it was very, very difficult to obtain those things. Mm-hmm. And so when I got into the beer world, the irony was it was really easy to help people out. For us, we're really good at throwing a party or throwing an event and being able to donate portions of those proceeds to people. And so when those partnerships really started to flourish, it just kind of starts stacking on each other, and people start hearing, hey, these guys will help you out. And it's kind of just blown up into this thing where we are constantly, every single month, every single event, and then you embed yourself in the community. I'm involved in the chamber, the Parks and Recreation, all these different groups. And the reason is, you've got to be involved in your community. You've got to put yourself out there. And we have a saying, give so big it hurts, because a lot of times you're like, oh man, why am I doing this event? And, but it's great. The people, it's just very difficult to get partnerships where the business is working just as hard as they are, and they're working just as hard as you are. Yeah. And so you're both benefiting each other.
Yeah. One of the things in my head that I'm constantly telling myself is like, I do this podcast to give everybody an equal opportunity to have that platform, whether they have a podcast themselves or not. Right. It's a great way to have people sit in and tell their story and promote whatever they want to promote. And that's that simple. And it's funny, there's an episode coming out tomorrow. I don't know when I'm going to post this one. It's probably in a couple of days too. But I had the Saberhagens here for Saves Wings, and I met them, and I'm like, and then I saw a post that they had, and I'm like, oh, they're going to be at your spot too. Yeah. And then I had Cami Velci, who's also doing an evening of Aloha, and I think they're doing it at your spot too. So I'm just like, okay. And that's where my mind goes to, like, great minds think alike. Like, they have to help each other. They have to bring each other up. And, at the end of the day, that's the most important part, I think.
Absolutely. And the irony is you're in your own location, so you don't really understand the reach because you're just continuing, I don't want to say on the hamster wheel, but you're working really hard in this, like, environment. And you don't see outside of that until you have a conversation like this. Yeah. And people, they're like, hey, I hear you guys do a lot. And I think to myself, oh, no, we just try to do the best we can. And then you start to think like, no, we do a lot. Like there's a lot of events coming when you don't just normally, people don't stop to take it all in, to see it all and really get that like 30,000 foot view and look down and say, oh yeah, these are a lot when you accumulate the whole thing and put a list together. But instead it's just our nature. Our purpose statement is bring people together and leave them better. Yeah. And in that is the idea of that's your community, the same way it is the clientele that come and see you, our guests, they're like guests at our house. How am I creating an environment, whether it's comfortability or taking care of them that leaves them better? And then, on top of that, we're asking them to leave us better, be great, basically contributors to our culture, add to the culture in a positive way. And so you find with those nonprofits that works really well, and it works hand in hand,
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely, I mean, and then it's like, you don't really understand like good PR until you start doing these kind of things. Cause you hear about good PR, bad PR, all PR is good PR technically because your name's being put out there, right? Yeah. Honestly, you don't want to be bad PR, but no, you start doing all these things and then it gets in people's like, in people's mind as they're seeing these things happen, right? It's like, oh, Cal Coast Beer Company is where this happened. I'm going to go support them more and more and more. It's like kind of like you're investing in good karma in a way. Absolutely. And it just brings, I don't know, it just brings a whole aspect to it. Cause I've talked to businesses where they don't do the extra inch, right? Yeah. They don't do, they have a hard time committing to any kind of fundraiser, even donating because they don't have the funds or, something along those lines. And you think to yourself like, but people know that you did it somehow, some way, somehow. Like I'm not trying to guilt trip them into doing more. Right. It's just one of those things where like Facebook is free, Instagram is free, social media is pretty much free. Even just putting yourself out there like that, sharing. There's times where I'm on social media super late at night and I see events happening and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share this on my story. No expectations. Like, oh, Miguel's a part. No, I'm not part of it. Anything. I just like, oh, I'm sharing it. Like, that's it. Share.
It is crazy. It's like it comes back to that feeling of like delayed gratification, right? Because you don't actually see it initially. Actually, you feel the pain of it, you know, if that's the way that you see it. I don't see it that way, but you know, people will say, "Oh, I can't donate to this. That's $500," or you know, and they miss the point of what you said. There's nothing more important than people being compelled to speak about what they experienced, right? And that's only through treating someone the right way and how you help them when they need it, you know, the way you act when you're doing all right, you know, that stuff comes through, and then they become compelled to tell everyone else. And like you said, going back, you had Riley Newman on here who helped create our logo actually. And I don't know if he talked about that, but I know he was.
I did not realize that. There's
6 degrees of separation. And so your brand is more than just a logo, you know, it starts to become, for good, bad, or indifferent, the feeling that people get, you know, when they see it or when they speak about it. And there's really there's no shortcut to that. There's no inauthentic way to do that. I mean, you just can't shortcut it. You know, people it starts to be like a snowball, roll down the hill, and good, bad, or indifferent, it just starts going. And then you can only just keep doing the best you can. And if you need to write it, it takes time. If you need to further it, it takes time. So kind of, that's, you know, it's kind of that cool stuff it's like building culture, building a brand. You can't see it, you can't touch it. No, it's just there. You have to build it, and you have to work really hard every day. And it's like little tiny things that make it up.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me that I always encourage people to do is document. That way you can look back a little bit easier. Now with the smartphones being so available and video, audio, podcasting, it's like one of the things that I definitely tell people is, how'd you guys document it? Like the event, how'd you, like, oh, we took some pictures, we did this. I'm like, what about video? What about like stories? Like how are you guys? Because you want to reflect on that stuff. And I mean, back in the day, it was all word of mouth, right? Before social media and stuff like that. So those local situations, word of mouth. But now you have this tool in your hand that can like completely expand. You're pretty much opening yourself up to the entire world, not just a small community, right? Yeah. So like for me, it's like, okay, how are you documenting this? How are you documenting it? How are you putting it out there? And you're doing one of the things that I feel it's like 100% needs to be done with everybody, regardless of how big the audience is, and that is a podcast. A podcast is like the next thing. It just makes sense to me for people to do that because everybody's listening. I mean, I know I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm working out. I listen to a podcast while I'm driving. It's like, I can't even think of a world before that. Music maybe was the filler. So as you're building this podcast, what are your goals with the show? What are you wanting to happen? I mean, are there no expectations? Like, talk to me a little bit about that. And what is it called to begin with, so that way people know?
It is the Pints Possibilities podcast. There's a lot of P's in there. Pints Possibilities are our core values there. So people is building teams. Pints is our version of crafting things, you know, creating something. You're doing it right here. You took a bunch of equipment and created a space where people can, you know, speak to the world, I guess. And then Possibilities is the mindset. You have to be a little crazy, even in your, you know, in your line of work, to say, I'm going to do this. And so Pints Possibilities, we were crazy enough to take an old auto garage and make a brewery. And so the podcast came about because we kind of have this organic thing, like we talked about the Cal Coast community. I didn't name that. Tommy, one of our, you know, beer club members, a good friend of ours, he said the CCC, the Cal Coast community, and it's kind of like they came together to keep us alive, you know. And as we started telling people the story, they were really intrigued. And so I said to Frank exactly what you just said. I think the new world is you kind of have to put yourself out there, and your new audience is not just Paso Robles. We love Paso Robles, but it's anyone with a cell phone, anyone who's inspired by, you know, creators, anyone who is out there with their own struggle. And I do the same. I listen nonstop to podcasts. I'm actually in like, I think it's the 0.0. I have to show you my Spotify. It's like 0.005 of listeners because I just have it in my head all night. You know, I put positive things on there.
I go to sleep with some random podcast in my ear.
I have them all lined up. I queue them up. And, you know, and we're learning. For us, did we have expectations? Frank's a military guy, so he did a lot of research, and he said we need to have 22, I don't know if you saw that video, but 22 episodes. And the only reason behind that was this was at the time from one of his favorite podcasts. 2 million people start podcasts. 90% of those disappear after 2, episodes is what they said on there.
Yeah.
And the Anti-Hero podcast, that's another one. I don't know if you were shouting out all these random people, but we got it. And, and then past that, 90% of those fall off and never make it past 22. So Frank was like, we're going to 23. Like, that's ringing the bell, right? So that was our short-term goal. Long-term, I mean, we just hope that other breweries want to join in, and, not just that, like cool stories from Paso, kind of like you. And your style's a little different. Even Frank and I are trying to find our style. It's funny you say that because this is like real life. I just posted a video today. Our last one, we were cursing on there, and because we're kind of just
the Pismo Beach one.
Well, we got after that one. The next one is kind of about just us and the struggles, and we kind of forget. We lost ourselves. My wife's like, what is going on with this chaotic episode? And so it's good to get back right. But we're just sitting there, having a beer, talking, and we kind of forget
that there's camera on you.
Yeah. And it's nothing bad. It's just about the struggles. We went through a lot of struggles to start, and then we had COVID, and there's just all these challenges. And so I posted another video that said, they're like, should we take it down? And I said, no, just leave it. It's like real. If people don't like it, it's okay. Well,
if they come to your spot, they're going to have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So why not just leave it? Right.
But you're finding out who you are in that world, which is like, not that we're not concerned about them. It's like, it's not more about the message you portray. It's about, did I really say that in a good way that it could impact somebody in a positive way? I think I'm more concerned about that. It's like, man, I really could have worded that in, an inspiring way. And that's kind of our goal with the podcast, is just to celebrate some really cool stuff and the community that we live in, and kind of what you're doing, and that's it. And if no one listens, I mean, I think there's like 50 listeners or something. So
I look at those numbers all the time. And I'm like, one did really well.
I haven't looked.
It just depends who it is. And then the like for you, like I think you were. I think the first episode did okay. Like I think you almost got. I want to say almost 100. I could be wrong.
Okay, is that good? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Locally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say yes. And because when I first started, I was getting those 50s, 60s, and then when I got specific people, they got 200, 150, and then it went back down to like 50, 60. And I'm like, so there's something here. And I always keep experimenting when to release them and all stuff. Because right before today, I want to say a day before today, I was like, man, all these episodes that I released on Thursdays are backing up. I have like 2 months worth right now that and then people keep asking me, like, hey, I would love to be a guest. I'd love to be a guest. Hey, can I, whatever. And then there's people I'm thinking of like, I would love to have them as a guest, but your episode won't come out in like 3 months or whatever. Yeah. And yesterday I made the decision, like, you know what? I'm going to record and post it within 2 days. Whoever it is.
Just keep going.
I'm not going to worry about when to distribute it, because that's how I started. I started posting after I recorded, and those were the higher views. There was no strategic plan to it. Yeah. So I got to go back to that. And then on top of that, I'm always looking at other podcasts nearby, how they're doing it. And then, and then there's that also that scenario too, where you're posting all the time and there's little views. So it's like, it's a hit and miss. There's no scientific proof. I mean, there is scientific, like work on the thumbnail, work on the, was it search engine optimization in your text of the details and your title. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm doing those things just to try it out. But I wasn't doing that when I had the higher views. So like, I have to like check myself, like, okay, don't overthink it. Just be genuine and post.
You can't, you got to do it. Put yourself out there. Did you see the Frank one with Pismo Pier that I did on my phone? My nephew told me how to do it. It had 30,000 I saw views or something, but the podcast only had like 100. So they didn't go like, oh, I want to listen to that. So I agree with you right now, being so new to it, but we have a good following through the California Coast Beer Company, community, because Martha has and so when Martha puts something out for us, it gains some traction. So that hopefully that helps. That's how you were like coming together, it's funny because the irony is exactly what you said. You can paralyze yourself with analyzing this data, and sometimes the best things just come out of the most random, ideas. Right. And so the alternative, I'm always talking to our team or anyone, I just posted a video just do it. Like, determine what's the worst case scenario if you make a video every day? People don't listen. Well, at least you're getting better at your craft every day. At least you're getting those reps. You're doing the work. You're getting better, because one day the perfect guest is going to walk in and it's going to be the perfect time. And instead of you figuring out how to do the wiring and put everything together, you would have already perfected that, and you will be ready, and that opportunity will find itself. And I believe in that stuff. And I also believe the opposite. What is the worst thing that can happen? No one listens. Cool. I can say, and you can say, we started a podcast and we took a risk, and anyone who wants to say anything negative about that is probably not taking a lot of risk in their own life. And also, I'm not going to worry about that, opinion. So here we sit, man. I'm fired up. Well, we're going to break the record. What's the record?
The record for how many views I got on an episode, I want to say it's like 230, 40, something like that.
Let's beat that thing. Let's get it going. Yeah.
So it's funny because I go back and forth so much with, just putting things out there and looking at the statistics. And you mentioned something about 22 episodes. I knew that from the very beginning. Like 90% of the people don't make it past episode 2. Another 70% don't make it past episode 7, and then like the last 40 don't make it past like episode 20, or something crazy like that. So I always tell myself, I'm gonna go to 100, just overshoot it. Shoot for the stars, land on the moon, right? Yeah. And one of the things, because the studio is available for rental for other people. So when I have clients, and they're all very like one-offs, like they want to record one, and I told them like, look, I will give you a much better deal if we do 25 episodes, 25 episode deal, because I want you to be that 1%, no, that point something percent, whatever it is.
It's like 10% of the, it's funny. It's the crazy. Math gets fuzzy, but our math people out there, but you're part of at least the last, it's 20,000 out of 2 million, and then of that, you're pushing past that. Why not be in that? You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And I think that's where people should focus on, is the consistency, and past that 22, 25, 26. Cause I've listened to like a Joe Rogan podcast, right? And you see the number on that episode title.
Crazy.
What? 2,000 something, whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then it was like 2:00 in the morning. I'm always diving into these kind of things. I scrolled all the way down to episode number 1. Yep. He didn't break 1,000 views until like episode 100.
And by the way, he was already famous.
He already had a following. And I was even listening to an episode today on the way here, and he was talking about like, look, if I started a podcast today with with all these podcasts out there now, I would have no listeners, regardless, because I would need to learn how to talk, how to have those conversations. And he's right. If you started today, like Joe Rogan did like a long time ago, you would have to go through that. That's part of the process. Yep. And a lot of people get stuck there because they have expectations of, I want to monetize already on YouTube. You need 1,000 followers. You need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I want to monetize on Spotify. You need 1,000 hours listened before you can do that. Like, there's all these little things these benchmarks you have to hit. And I think a lot of people are discouraged when they see benchmarks. That's why you have to write it down. What is it called? Self-manifestation or something like that.
You're absolutely right. You are selling yourself short in anything that you're trying to do. You have to commit yourself, because how could you even say you tried or attempted? It's like going to the gym for 3 times and saying, you tried CrossFit, or, it's like saying that you studied, and tried to go to college, but you took 3 classes. You've got to dig in and really commit yourself to whatever it is you're doing. As Frank says, he likes to say, burn the boats, which we did, with the brewery. Is there's no other option. You think back, why did we succeed, or why are we succeeding? 5 years, we're almost 6 years in, nothing's guaranteed, but we are seeing those benchmarks, like you said, of success within the brewery. And why are we doing that? Just like you said, coming in every day and doing the small things, mopping the floor, making sure the bathrooms are clean, that the beer tastes right, that we say hello and goodbye to everyone. And you have to do the same thing in your podcast. You have to do episode after episode. You have to book people. You have to go put yourself out there and talk to them. And that is true in anything that you do, and it's so easy to give up. When you go, the human nature and human intuition says, if I ask people, give me 5 reasons why you shouldn't show up today, they can rip them off. Tell me 5 reasons why you should quit this podcast. Man, it's taking up all my time. I spent a bunch of money on it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't get many views. Like, you could rip those off. Yeah. But I tell you to give me 5 reasons why you should and why it's a great idea. And a lot of people have a hard time doing that, and I don't. It's like, I'm networking with the community. I could be, we have that ability, like you said, and I see it. I could be the next go-to media source in this area. For you, I don't want to do that. That's why every podcast is different. Right. We're just hanging around, drinking some beer, having a good time, and that's how we like it. For you, this setting, even just me being in it, I feel it. You're creating like a very professional setting where people are comfortable with you, so you could rip off a bunch of things that are helping you. I'm sure. Look at all the networking you've done and all the people you've met just off the bat, and then you start to gain an influence and create a brand for yourself, and people lose that somewhere. It gets lost in whether the world's beat them down and harnessed, kind of captured their spirit. You're opening it up, and you get to speak to the entire world. And I think that's the next phase. It's, Paso Robles, the community still isn't even tapped in, I don't think, to podcasts yet. Like, if you look at the majority of this community, I would say that they're probably still listening to the radio, which is no knock on the radio, but that is quickly changing. And so you're at the tip of the spear. While we may be behind out in the podcast world, we're probably ahead in the local areas.
Well, that's where the statistics come in, because those are statistics worldwide, national, whatever. So when we're in that 1% of people who are past a certain amount of podcasts, you're already like the top active podcast production, right?
Right.
And it's just one of those things where, like, okay, think about it that way. Don't think about, like, don't look at the micro stuff, right? Don't look at how many views you have. Don't look at the comments, if there's any. You don't have a lot of views.
And they're usually bad. They're like, you didn't say this right, or
I remember starting a podcast for Park Cinemas and did like not movie reviews, but what's going on in the movies and stuff like that, right? And I had one person commenting almost every single episode. It's like, one, you keep referencing this guy that's not even on the podcast. Like, well, he's an employee here. We're just bringing him up,
Yeah.
And then the other one's like, oh, you two make a lovely couple. I'm like, what? And I'm just like, oh, okay. So you obviously have those people that like kind of miss the point, but it's just one of those things where, like, you know what you're doing, what the value you bring, and that's what you're trying to project. And one of the big things I like to tell people is you don't have to create all the time. You can just document.
Yeah.
If you can't create, just documents. And that's why I love Instagram stories. I remember when it first started happening, Instagram was around, stories did not exist. Right. You can post a picture, post a video, and then all of a sudden they introduce stories. And I'm like, oh my God, everybody's going to be living in stories now, because it's like digestible 30, 40 seconds. Yeah. And then people, I go on my stories. Next. It's a different than scrolling down and like going down the feed or whatever. So I go next. And then until, they started introducing paid sponsorships. So every third
that's
one.
That's ruining it, by the way. You're right.
Yeah. And so, like, what I tell people is like, look, especially people who have small businesses that work there, they need to be out there this way. Social media is, I've had those conversations where I talk to them like, they tell me, it's like, oh, I don't know. I'm trying to think when to post and stuff like that. I'm like, don't think it, just do it.
Yeah.
You're going to catch somebody's eye. You can be, she was here as a guest, is Ritzy from Sweet Garland Creation. She does like pop-up balloons and like she does like arches with balloons. She like pretty much like really cool stylish balloons. Like if you want to throw a birthday party for your kid of Spider-Man, she does the backdrops with balloons and all that stuff and decorates. It's really cool. but she's trying to figure out how to post that. I'm like, you can post you popping the balloons after the event. You can post like running out of breath because your pump didn't work to blow the balloons. Like, just document. And I think that's one of the cool things you're doing is you're documenting, everything. Absolutely. Including like a mistake about sound or something.
Yeah. Oh no, I put it on there. Yeah. Well, you got to be real with people. I think that's what's missing now as we went through. You hit it, is the world kind of went really refined, and in my opinion, on Instagram, and everything turned into like this beautiful like professional video, and it's like open the door and I walk in and everything's perfect, and we're imperfect. Like today, my wife's like I said, she told me I don't love that episode, and it was like, okay, I just posted a video saying this was our headspace on this, and I think that's missing in the world. I want to be connected with those people. I don't want to be around the people that are trying to be perfect and trying. I think we went in that direction really hard when people started to realize you could make videos and get content. And I think it's all dragging itself back in a good way. And it's all coming back to this really, really authentic stuff, like you said. And for a business, they don't necessarily need to do a podcast, but they should get on one and talk to people and spread their word, or come and use your facilities, or find somebody who has a bunch of Instagram followers, and I'm also on the Travel Paso marketing committee, and they're professionals. They work really hard to do these really, really great activations, and they do great in their events. But they also still need that organic piece of people just being people, and as focused as they are, and they're at the highest level, promoting these really great things and big events, it still comes back to both. You need that professional feel. Absolutely. That's never going to die. But I do think that there is just a hunger right now for people being people, and you look at, Barstool Sports has millions and millions and millions of people, and those guys are just knuckleheads being knuckleheads, right? But you can't help to be like, what the heck are they doing now? They're playing some golf tournament, or whatever that is. And why is there demand for that? Because they are who they are. Love them, hate them, indifferent, whatever. They are being themselves, and that's hard to find.
Yeah. That's funny. I did notice a lot of golf tournaments more often now, especially with like Burt Chrysler and and all that stuff. And I'm like, I've always heard people talk about golf, and they talk about swings and handicap and whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not in that world. But then like, how good are they for them to constantly be playing?
Right.
And I find out it's a networking thing.
It is, but I'm the bad. My dad built golf courses, and I don't go to golf courses at all because I can't think of a better way to waste 4 hours than play golf, to be honest. So don't invite me. I hate to say that. I love my people who golf. Go ahead. I think I have ADD, and so I don't. I'm about 3 holes in, and I'm like, this is cool. I'm out of here. So, but it's about networking. But you have to find your networking. Like. The biggest thing is do the things that fulfill you, and then you're not working. Like you're hanging out here and we're talking. Yeah. Do things, networking, that fulfill yourself and fill your tank. What do they say? Burnout is not too much work. It's too much of the wrong work, right? And so you've got to find that work that gives you joy, that brings you happiness, that fills you up, and you will never be burned out. It doesn't exist. Today is technically my Saturday, and then tomorrow, which we take time in the middle of the week. And then tomorrow is a Nashville show. So I'll be setting up in the morning, but I love it. It's a beautiful thing when all these people come and enjoy this stuff or sitting with you. Mm-hmm. So I'm not wasting, once again, back to that mentality. Oh man, I can't do that. That's on what would be my Saturday, like, no. I'll do it because I love it, because I love people, because I'm interested in what's going on. And I'll do the other things because I choose it, right? And I'm choosing to do the work, and I want to see people happy, and we want to have a great event. So I'm going to commit myself to that, and I'm not going to blame, complain, or defend. I'm going to go and make a choice myself to do this thing, and I'm going to commit myself fully to it. And I think, that's what it takes. And so you're doing the same. I have a lot of respect for people like that. So here we sit, man. We're just getting after it, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting the approaches I'm taking now, because I haven't really been networking until like the last 2 months. Before that, I built this.
I saw you at the chamber. I saw you at the chamber. You were over there. You were just scoping people out, right?
You know what's funny? I was so nervous for and this was the grand opening of the Paso Templeton Chamber offices, right?
Oh yeah.
And I drove by right before I parked, and I'm like, oh, I'm so underdressed. I had this big old what's it called, Champs T-shirt with my logo on the back and front, and I was a walking billboard that day, and I was like, I'm so underdressed. And I told a few people that I knew because I'm a local guy. I talked to them. I gravitated to the people I knew first, right? And I told him, like, hey, dude, like, should I have dressed up a little bit? He's like, no, you're good. I'm like, all right. And then I started thinking to myself, it's like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. So when people ask me, oh, who are you? What do you do? I literally just turn around and like, hey, I'm Paso Robles podcast. Like, look it up. That's it. And I started doing more networking. Like I go to the lunch mixers for Hispanic Business Association. I've been going to the more Main Street mixers. I'm even thinking of going, and on May 21st, there's a Alignable. I think it's the program. It's just a online software or online like company that does that networks. You sign up. I'll show it to you after. Austin is the one who invited me. Austin Yardborough.
Yeah. Austin's
he invited me on
got his podcast too.
Yeah, he just started, and every once in a while, I'll send him a few clips like I did to you. It's like, hey, use them if you want to. If not, go for it, because I want him to be able to continue. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if I send you something that you created a podcast, I'll create some clips and I send it over to you. My goal there is just to keep you inspired.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And it worked. I think I used one of yours that you sent. I mean, I'm sure I did. And, yeah, you just got to, like Austin, he's doing the same. He's inspiring. You're getting around those people. Yeah. You're being inspired by the people that inspire you. And so, like you said, whether you're networking like at the chamber, the chamber's a great event, but your success and who you are is not predicated on the clothes you wear. It's, again, that authentic feel. I think I worked in a school district where we wore ties every day, and we had that. And sometimes it's better just to see people in their own environment, how they're wearing things. And people are genuinely interested, I believe. Yeah. And if they're not interested, you don't want them, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if they're not like, oh, podcast, that's cool. Yeah. Tell me more about it. You don't want them sitting here because they're not going to be interesting, right? If they're not interested in you, they're not going to be fun to talk to. And there's like a contract between the two of you, it's unwritten, which is like, hey, we're going to come in here and we're going to make each other better. And and that's kind of what you're talking about, getting into these organizations. Why are you getting in these organizations? You're just testing out where you feel comfortable, and you're helping the community at the same time. And so why would you not want to do that? And you don't have to love every single one, it's just finding your niche and where you can help. And then people will help you in turn. They'll see you and say, you got to go. Once again, the biggest thing in the world, if for at least us and anything, is you can market all you want, but it's people telling people. If someone says to you and they're compelled to say it, it's Cal Coast community, you've got to go try this place. When you go down there, you're going to love it. That's a big risk for someone to tell someone like you need to do it, because if it doesn't come through, someone will tell you, oh, that place was horrible. But if they do come through, it's greatness, it's magic, right? That your friends come back to you and say, man, what a great place. And so the only way to compel them is to go talk to them and be in front of them and them get to know you. The only way to build trust is like a drop in a bucket, right? It's one drop at a time. And it takes time, day in, day out, how we treat each other. So I love that stuff. Austin is one of those guys. Shout out to Austin. He just grinding,
Yeah.
And he's, I don't know what he's doing, push-ups somewhere right now or doing some things. And he's in Phoenix and all the way back. But him and I have sat in his office and, with Justin Spurbeck, a friend of mine too, all these people you should have back on. And we've just talked about business and what's going on and how we can get better and learning from each other. And I think that's the new way of the world. There's a mentor, there's a resource out there everywhere. You just have to go find them. And there's going to be a lot of people that tell you no. Yeah. You cannot be affected by that. Winners set goals and accept no distractions from those goals. And so that's not going to impact us and the way we're going, because I know what we want, where we want to get and what we want to do. And so we're going to stay committed to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then, I've had those conversations with my wife a little bit, because I used to manage the movie theater in Paso Robles Park Cinemas.
Yeah.
And I left that job to go full time here.
Okay.
And there's days where
taking
a
risk.
There's days where I'm like, what did I do? And then there's days where I'm like, this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah. No, taking a risk. We left jobs in education that we had worked for a long time, and the reality is, it was a steady paycheck, and I loved my job, but I had always just wanted to kind of do something for myself and control my own environment and, just put myself out there and be with a great team and build that team, our way. And there's always parameters inside schools, a lot of red tape. And so we did the same, people will say you're crazy. I'm sure you had it too.
I mean, they weren't saying I'm crazy because they see my demeanor as like, oh, this guy can go like execute kind of thing. But they were more concerned, like, are you ready for that? Like that's what I got mostly.
Yeah, like they're concerned for you. I love that. You're like, I got this, but you're like, I know I'm gonna do it. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, because I know that risk, and it is scary, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm still in it. I'm still feeling that right now. Like every day, I'll wake up and I'll have that like deep breath of like realization, like what the is going on.
Yeah.
And then as throughout the day, like I'm sitting down with you and I'm like, that kind of feeling goes away because it feels right. It feels like I'm moving in the right direction. It's just one of those things, like that's why I try to keep myself busy, because you have to. There's going to be that voice on that back of your head that's going to go like, no, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. Yeah, you're doing bad. It's not good. See that person who canceled you? There's a reason why. There's all those little voices that go in your head. So you keep yourself busy. You plug yourself in. Listen to another podcast that for sure has like inspired you in moments where you're down and stuff like that. And every workout I start is like this like montage of Joe Rogan talking. Is like you be the hero in your own movie.
Right.
Like you start out.
It's true. Where are you in your life? Where the play of life goes on and you get to contribute a verse. What will your verse be? That's on one of my accounts. And the reality is, what is it going to be? And you took a chance, right? And that's beautiful. What is it? He also says, like Jocko, you didn't get what you wanted? Good. It's not working out the way you wanted? Good.
A good 30 minutes, good.
Yeah. And I think for us, we're talking about the new world, which is like, if you're not getting out there and talking to people, our mentors are anyone that we can plug into, like before, let's just say 20 years ago, you were limited and your inspiration was limited and your resources were limited by just the people who surrounded you, right? So my community, or maybe even my own household, because I just didn't have access to those things. Now I have access, and the only thing stopping me is me, right? The only thing holding me back is me. And that's a reality. Like I can learn on YouTube how to fix an engine, and I can learn how to start a podcast, right? Yeah. But I have to do the work. And the only thing stopping me from accessing that portal or opening that door is me and my commitment level to my own education. And, not enough people are investing in themselves.
Right. Yeah, they're grinding out that 9 to 5. Job stands just over broke. They pay you enough to stay there, but you work hard enough so they don't fire you. Like all those little those little verbs, or like the sentences, like and you try to break that habit. You try to do the little things to get you out of that cycle, that rat race, or whatever you want to call it. And it's funny though, because you mentioned like you have to go and figure things out and stuff like that. And I've done that, right, for the whole podcasting side. And anytime I'm talking to somebody who wants to start a podcast, and I'm like, let me help. Like I jump to attention, like, let me do it. Like, let me help and figuring out. And I see that like look in their eye where like, I kind of want to, because they've been told so much no's, right?
Yeah.
So when they see somebody actually saying yes, it's like too good to be true.
You're investing in them. Don't be the elephant, right? Yeah. So when the baby elephants are out there and they tie a chain around this baby elephant, and people wonder, like the circus, how were they able to control the elephants? And it was because that elephant was imprinted at a young age that it couldn't break away, right? So the master, they just put that chain right into the ground for these elephants, and what they realized was the elephant then becomes defeated, right? And so that happens in human nature. You break a horse, right? It's called breaking a horse. Mm. Think about that concept. You broke its will, you broke its spirit, right? And that happens to people. But you can rebuild it, and that's a beautiful thing. That's why in all my posts and everything, I don't know why I hit the camera. People ask me that all the time. I hit the camera like because I think I'm trying to make a point, but I say I believe in us, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll meet people and I say to myself, how do I believe in you more than you believe in yourself? How can that even be a possibility?
Yeah.
But it is, because I believe in you. Like, you tell me right now, you could be, someone who everyone wants to talk to in the Central Coast, and you are the authority in whatever you want to do, whether it's, news updates or sports or just people or human nature, stories. But I believe it.
Yeah.
And so a part of that is these types of conversations and surrounding yourself with the right people. That's a huge thing, and also helping people. I love that you just said that, because the greatest gift you could give someone is a real opportunity. Like, just to sit down with them and say, I know that for your life, you haven't been given an opportunity, but guess what? The most scariest thing I can give you right now, I'm going to give you that chance.
Yeah.
And see what you do with it, because now it's back on you, right?
Yeah.
So, now it's in your court.
Ball's in your court.
Yeah.
And I go a step further. Like, so what I offer a lot of times is like free first consultation, whatever. And then after that, I offer, like, it's obviously, there's a cost to it. And then they kind of discourages them. Like, no, like they're already, in their head, they're already committing thousands of dollars to equipment.
Right.
And you're like, I can help you figure.
I'm moving all over. Sorry.
I can help you maneuver through that, because I already went through that. There's a couple people I've talked to recently that bought all this equipment. So we got the Rodecaster Pro 2 handling the audio. I have the Rode Pod mic for the mics. That's it. That's all you need. If you didn't have a Rodecaster Pro and you got something that didn't have a preamp in it, you would need to get a cloud lifter that goes in between to give it the extra juice, because these mics need extra juice. It's not a regular dynamic microphone where, But I went through that. I went through USB mics. I went through XLR mics. I went through not enough juice. So I had to figure out what am I missing, because I had to turn up the gain all the way. And it's like, it's still kind of quiet,
Yeah.
And then I finally found out, I was like, okay, because I need extra juice. And so when people buy all these extra things, and I literally ask them, like, send me a list of what you got. Send me a list of what you got, and I'll tell you what you overbought. Send it back. Get
Absolutely.
your monies back, and then I'll go talk to you and put it all together. So it's funny though, because like I try to preemptively like stop them from doing that, and I get that whole like block, like that wall, because they're so used to being told no, or you're doing it wrong or something like that. And I'm like, that's not what my goal is.
Yeah.
My goal is to coach and guide, not criticize and correct.
And that's normal. People just kind of aren't used to people investing in them, like that's not a lot of people put other people first. And so they're probably, like you said, you even tried to help me, and I even did the same. I'm like,
he wants money out of me.
Let me see, like I'm doing my own.
Yeah, but that's why I sent you those clips. That's why I always like you sent me, you told me, hey, tell me what I'm missing. And I'm like, all right, turn that guy's volume up a little bit. Like, it's just, to me, it makes sense just to tell you. I'm not, for me, it's like, there's no benefit of me holding that back.
And think about what has to happen both ways, which is you have to have the open mindset to accept feedback, right? So for me, I don't know any other way. So I'm absolutely thankful for it. I try not to be defensive of any of that, even though sometimes, you get like personal feelings like, man, I'm working hard on this. But whether it's in our business or that, if the second you're not taking feedback, you're not learning anymore. Like you're not getting better, right? There's no advancement. If I know everything and I'm as good as I get, well, my limitations are the skill level that I have and what's inside of me. And I want everyone's brain, helping me. I want the community helping me, Calco's community, and the same with the business. That's the reason that thing has grown, and that's why the podcast came about. Is we put a call out just the other day for an Atari. I don't know if you saw that. I posted, we got an Atari.
Like, is there anybody out there that knows how to do this?
It doesn't work. And so Sal came in, who's been a beer club member, and he fixed the darn thing, and it works, and all our people play. Yeah. And he did have to use his expertise, but it was just an all call like, hey, we're not, this isn't our field. Yeah. We don't have all the answers. Can anyone help? And people love to help. Like they really do. If you are genuine, they want to help you. And so your help, like we did, I said to Jake, well, Jake too.
Yeah, he used to work for me at Park Cinema.
Yeah, so Jake's going to have to come over. I tried to get him to come today.
We'll definitely have part 2.
Whoever the lady is that Jake's not here, so I'm talking about him, right? If you sent this guy a message early, Jake's not here. He helps us with our podcast, and he went out of his way. and we're just learning together.
Yeah.
You know, the episode didn't work, and you know, that's that mindset again. We could throw a fit and get mad, or we can say, hey, what a great learning experience. Let's do a better job next time. And so we're doing the same thing, and you know, it just, that idea, that community piece keeps coming back, and it's real. So
yeah, now that I know he's helping you with the podcast, I'm gonna text him and say, hey, if you have questions, let me know.
Dude, hit him up. Yeah, we love anything you need, like, or anything you can give, and we can give better, because you know, podcast is like beer for you. It's like people have said, oh, there's a couple podcasts, and the reality is there's a whole bunch of beer, and there's a different beer for everybody, and there's a different wine for everybody, and there's a different, you know, movie for everyone. Right. And so a lot of those things are just, you know, it's the eye of the beholder, right? Yeah. It's art.
Yeah. And everybody has it's niche for everybody. Like there's something, and right now I think what you're doing is you're kind of like throwing a wide net, right? Yeah. And trying to figure it out. Yeah. And as you go, when you look back, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe we talked about all that stuff. And now you figured it out, kind of thing. And that's what I like seeing. I like seeing people growing. I remember following certain people who are like local influencers, how they started, and I have those conversations. I was like, this is really, really good. And like, you know, what you're doing. And I don't know, it's just weird. Like anytime there's a new business, like I'm gonna like not closely follow them, but like I'm at least gonna keep tabs and see what they're doing. And then if they go away or like stay around, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing to like keep providing value? Like are they, you know, it's not the whole like the mall, you know, you build it and they will come anymore.
No, you know, and there's no cookie cutter either.
No. There's no cookie cutter. Yeah. Yeah.
There isn't. And like you said, have you met Adri, Central Coasting with Adri?
That's one person I was actually thinking about.
Did I point you to her, or she helped us in the beginning? Yeah.
So I've had her on another podcast show that I did with a buddy of mine called Two Dads in a Pod, and she was on it, and we talked about it, and we asked her questions like, you know that kind of was relevant to what she was doing. And one of the things she mentioned was every time she's out and about with her husband, she says like he's asking me that question, like, are we here together or are we here for the business? And that's one of the things like she had to learn and maneuver through, you know, and you have to be with somebody who's open to go through those scenarios with you too.
Absolutely. You know? You starting a business, and I think that was a part of our latest thing was it looks great no matter where, you know, it always looks great from certain angles, but I don't care who you are. There is a story in there about gutting it out, overcoming it, you know, and whether it was that, you know, like in our business, people have to give up Friday and Saturday night and every holiday, right? If you want to be successful.
Oh my God.
It's
holidays.
And it's hard, you know, it's hard. No one wants to do that. But then there's also beautiful things in it too, with all the people that, you know, are having a good time, and, you know, all the joy that's in there. And so they say, oh, owning a brewery is great, but there's also plenty of challenges. And we went through tons of challenges, COVID, you know, and things like that. And that's true for anyone doing anything, and even people not starting their own business, but people working, you know, every day, living their daily lives. There's tons of challenges, and it's navigating those, you know, like, back to Adri, she's like blowing up, and she started from nothing, you know, and she helped us, and she's, you know, an authority in, you know, getting views and getting people to see your business for what it is. And she does a great job. And so you start to meet these people, and we all become allies of each other, or champion each other, I guess. And it keeps coming back to that, but it really is. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing it. And you can't take all this stuff with you. I don't know what people are doing. You know, you miss out on the greatest. The essence of life is, you know, endeavors with other human beings, right? Like overcoming something and becoming a true team, and building trust, and, you know, all those words that almost become cliche, but they're not. And there's a reason why people write books about them. And so I'm fighting for that every day of my life, you know, searching for it.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that goes through my mind when I first meet a business is who else is doing the same thing, and are they competitive? Are they being being competitive? But in Paso, for some reason, that's almost non-existent, unless you know they're completely blunt about it. Oh, I'm going to put them out of business or whatever, or like being mean to each other or whatever. You're like, I don't really see that in Paso Robles as far as, there's a Paso Brewing Company.
Yeah,
there's
they're great.
805,
Barrel House, Firestone. They're all in there. No, and everybody, we may not get together as much as we would like. I think we need to do more of that probably, but everybody's kind of trying to survive in their own area. Yeah. But you definitely in beer, you just don't talk negatively. It's not going to help you, and we wouldn't do that anyways. And it's a community, you want to support each other because there's plenty of places to go. People are, enjoying their own atmospheres. They like different places for different reasons. Different owners do different things. It's kind of cool. And, there's a lot of wineries, but they're all unique in their own way. And so, I just don't think you're ever going to get anywhere just by putting anyone down or pointing out where someone else has failed. You're going to get there by being supportive and doing what you do. Any energy that is directed in a negative way is just wasted energy, in my opinion. We're going to focus on being the absolute best we can be with our team. And then we're also going to be focused on doing the best we can for the community as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. That's the only way I see it working out, especially for Paso. Paso's grown up. Yeah, Paso's been blowing up. It's going to keep, it's too small. Right now it's too small for I'm not gonna say too small for things to go bad.
No, it's too small.
Because they can.
Dude, I'm from outside. I'm perfect for Paso because I don't talk about people when they're not in the room, or I try really hard. If you hear me, if you're whispering, you're having the wrong conversation. And if somebody's not in the room, I'm not talking about them. So when you first come to Paso, though, they try to get you because they're like, hey, what do you think about so-and-so? And I'm not that guy. I'm like, I don't know. If they've been good to me, I just never say anything negative. It's not really my prerogative. And they're like, oh, that's good because that's my cousin.
It's a small world, man.
It's a small world.
I remember I learned that. I feel like I learned that the hard way one time. I did a tasting. I'm not going to say what winery because I don't want them to get mad at me because I'm bringing up the story. But the person doing the tasting, I think she was the owner of it. She told me, like, oh, what do you think about this person at this other wine tasting? And I'm like, oh, I thought she was odd. And she was trying to, and it's like, well, you drink like you get drunk, that. Like,
just trying to get you. They're trying to get you to set the hook. Yeah, I know, and all they want to do, the famous line, "Dog that carries a bone is always looking for a bone." Right. So if someone brings you, I say that. I don't think people are dogs, but I tell that to people. It's like if somebody's bringing you a gem and wants to search for a gem, they're always looking for one, and they're going to say it about you just as quickly as they told you something about someone else. They're going to say something about you. And so I avoid those, but Paso is a small town, and I lived in Kingsburg, California as well, which is even smaller, and word travels fast. It's almost like, I hate to say it this way, but it's like entertainment, to some people, because they all know each other and they've lived here forever, and it's a beautiful place, and they're highly protective of it, and I understand that too from the outside. It's beautiful. You know what I love about Paso? We say this in one of our podcasts. You don't choose Paso, Paso chooses you, And if they want to make sure you don't succeed, that can happen. And if they want to make sure that you can succeed, that also can happen, and the people know who you are in this town, and they just kind of sit back and say, are you going to do good things for this area, or are you going to take from us? Yeah. And you can kind of see them,
It's funny. I lived in Lemoore from like 2012 to 2016, which is an hour and a half away from here. And it's like way smaller than Paso, right? And I remember they were going through this motion of recalling their mayor or whatnot. Yeah. And I remember after, I think it was pretty much said and done. He was recalled or whatever. And I remember him being at a bar that we were just hanging out. I was like, oh, look, the former mayor. We were just joking around with them. I mean, he was gone. Like he was talking
enjoying his night.
Yeah, he was talking so much crap about the town. It's like, dude, they're the ones who put me in office to begin with, man. It's like, and one of my friends was like, he's like spilling secrets in that same moment too. Like, and I'm just like, oh, this is a small town. If it gets around, something bad's gonna
and it will. Happen. You already know it will.
Yep. So it's like I'm not saying like I have these bad thoughts or bad opinions or whatever, because I really don't. But I do notice when it's like It's like if Paso was if Paso was a body of a person or whatever, like the body will do its work to push it out.
Yeah.
Like push the poison out. It'll
Yeah.
do, you'll get that fever, but it's because it's trying to burn up whatever your ailment is, and it's just that's what happens. And in the moment you feel like, this parking thing situation's pissing me off.
Yeah.
But like in the long run, you're like, don't worry, it'll work itself out. It's temporary.
It's true. Even on, those things, and they're always like problems. They are relevant and they are things that are there, but in the end you live in a beautiful place. And so, I really try, like when you come into those types of scenarios, just to really say, what can we actually do to help the situation? Because it's really easy to get online and just blast everything and, put everything down and point out where other people have failed. But that's really not gaining any traction either, and so quality feedback and getting involved. I tell everyone, if you don't like it, go get involved. Go down there, because voices do matter, and sometimes the negative voices drown out the positive voices, because the positive people are too busy trying to, get things done, to be honest with you. And the negative people just enjoy creating negativity. And so we've got to get good people involved and get their voices out there just the same. And it did write itself, it does write itself, and that technically takes time. And by the way, if it doesn't go the way you want and you don't like it that much, you don't have to be here, like you can go somewhere else, but I will tell you, they'll have their own problems and so it's just a beautiful place. That's why I try to contribute at the highest level in a positive way.
So so while we wrap things up, we want to tell what are the big plans for Cal Coast Beer Company? Like what are your goals? Because obviously you don't just start it and just say, oh, let's see if we sell beer. What are your big plans? Multiple locations? Like what is it that you want out of this specific brand?
Continue to build the Cal Coast community. Take care of our team. So just a quick rundown: 6 years is coming up in May. Year one, we started a brewery and struggled through it because of COVID and, all the things going on and just starting a business and being new. But out of that came this rebirth, of just excitement. And we fixed up the back area, took over patina. So the year three was doing events and having plenty of room. Year four was the Den, which formerly was a winery, Iron Oaks Winery there. And year five was now Zach taking over, and we put it in our own kitchen. So year six is really this year was about like building a high level team, right? And that doesn't just happen overnight. It's like empowering people to take over new positions, coaching them, scaffolding them to build them up so that they feel confident in leading people, not working on the business, bringing them up. And so we've done that. The kitchen's doing really well. So it's refining the things on our property. And then bigger picture, people are asking us, to put a Cal Coast beer in other locations. And we would do that when the time comes, but we're really happy, finding our stride. Like, in the business, in the podcast, we're a baby, we're a newborn. We don't even know what we are. Right. But in the business, finally, we're like growing up. A business is very much like human. In my opinion, we were, trying to find ourselves at one point, and we were struggling through those teenage years of like, I don't even know what my identity is. And now we finally come into adulthood where it's like, oh no, we have a really, really good idea of who we are, how we do things, how we want to treat one another, and where we fit within this community. The organization fits in the community. And so for us, the next step is just to maybe put another location there or so, in some other places. And we don't distribute. The unique thing is you have to come to Cal Coast Beer to drink the beer. We don't distribute. That was never a part of our plan. And the reason was, you can overextend yourself. You can invest in all these things, and that industry sees a lot of growth, and it saw a lot of growth, and now it's seeing a lot of contraction, and so is the wine industry. Yeah. And for us, luckily, we're doing okay. And the reason is we don't have some of those big tanks and big contracts and things that other people have. And that was a part of the plan. And that was from the tutelage of Craig, my good buddy. And so we'll see what the beer industry looks like, but it is different. It's kind of like what you're talking about. Beer, wine, people want to know less about making the product and more about what that experience is on your site. And for us, we have private parties, comedy shows, events. We do some wine-based cocktail stuff. And so it's really about having these multiple offerings on these sites. And like we said, working with the community. So we're going to continue to refine that. So for us, building that team and just refining the machine that is Cal Coast beer into its just rock solid form, and then also being able to have the ability to recreate that somewhere. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. That's a good plan. I'm over here, one man person, so I can't talk about team. I've thought about like, there's another dude. He's really good at like camera angles and stuff like that. I mean, like if I need help, I'll reach out to him.
Yeah.
But right now,
you gotta have money for that.
You gotta because you gotta pay him. You gotta.
Yeah.
But I try to factor that into the quotes I give out. Like if I do need somebody to help me, I'm like, all right, there's this much is going towards him directly to him. Is not even going to me. So. That's cool. I'm still trying to figure out how to end shows.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You gotta ask like a rapid fire set of questions or something, right?
Yeah,
something.
Eventually, I'll do something. Oh, so I started off, and maybe I should again. What's one quote that you can tell, motivational quote that you can tell the audience to like just wrap things up?
My favorite quote is a long one, so I'll kind of paraphrase it, but it's "The Man in the Arena" by Teddy Roosevelt. You heard that one, right?
No.
It is, it is not how the doer of deeds point out, it is not the critic who counts. It's not how the doer of deeds could have pointed out or how it's, let me go back. Hold on. I like this.
You can see the long one. It's fine.
Teddy Roosevelt. No, it's good. It's not the critic who counts. It's not about how, I'm going to paraphrase, but it's not about how the person who's not acting points out how the doer of deeds could have done them better. It's about the person in the arena whose face is marred with sweat and blood, and who comes up short because there's no victory without shortcomings, but who in the end, even if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. And and he will never be with those cold and timid souls who will never know victory nor defeat. Right. And I'm sure I messed that up, but the idea is, I say under my thing, critics don't count. Get out there, get in the arena. You absolutely will fail. But in the end, at least you won't be stuck with the cold, timid souls who never tried anything. So cheers to you. Appreciate you having me. Nothing but love for you and the show you have. And I'll spread the word for you. Hopefully we break the record. Let's go. Come on, people. Let's do this.
Yeah, we'll break the record for sure. And then thank you and then if, again, like, I'll help with whatever I can. Obviously, that's my goal.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks.